everybody? Welcome back to another episode of MadBBall TV. Today I'm very honored to present a very special guest, Mr. Keith Groller. How you doing today, man? You good?
Great to be with you, man. Great to be with you guys. You're doing a great job. Been watching your stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Let's get it started. Mr. Groller, you know, you're definitely one of the more prominent figures when it comes to Lehigh Valley basketball and Lehigh Valley sports as well. You know, a lot of people know you for your work with the morning call, but most people don't know your story. And you know, I have you here today because you always ask us all the questions, and I think it's time for you to get some of the answers. So, who is Keith Groller, and you know, what can you tell the people that they don't know? Like, what's your story?
Well, Keith Groller is a guy who just always wanted to be involved with high school sports from the time he was a little kid. And I had great parents who took me to a lot of Allen games. They took me to a lot of Deerf games. And I fell in love with high school sports when I was in elementary school. And if you ask anybody, Julian, you know, who knew me in elementary school, what I wanted to be, I would tell them either a sports writer or a sportscaster. And sports writers are given, but I've even been able to do some radio shows and some TV shows over the years, so even the sportscaster deal has been fulfilled as well. So I am one of those rare people who knew what he wanted to do at a young age and was able to follow that path and make it happen. So I'm very blessed in that regard. Right here, Deerf High School in our backdrop here, very special place to me. Deerf shaped my life. The teachers were great. I think going to a school with the ethnic diversity that we had every ethnic group imaginable, and it allowed me to meet other people and get to know people and understand people. We were Huskies. There's a thing called Husky pride.
The whole team we have here, me, Will, Kenneth, we always, as Allentown kids, we always want to see like Deerf do well and Allen, and you know, like to get the coaching hires that they got recently with Darnell and Marlon Randall. I think that's going to help them in the long run.
Well, I think those are great moves. Doug Snyder is one of the greatest assets we've had in Lehigh Valley sports, not just basketball.
Yeah.
But he, you know, football coaches respect Doug, baseball coaches, wrestling coaches, everybody respects Doug for the job he's done. But the hires that they made, you have to be able now to relate to your kids and give them your stories and connect with them in a way that maybe some other people can't relate. And I think both Marlon Randall at Deerf right here and Darnell Braswell at Allen are perfect choices, because those kids, those guys have walked the same trails that these, literally the same hallways as Darnell at Allen. Right. Marlon's going to bring that Reading flavor. He's going to bring his experiences from Virginia with him. But I think they're very exciting hires, along with Nigel Long at Liberty, and I'll even throw in Jerry Lloyd. I think Jerry Lloyd's an excellent choice for Northwestern. So we've had four hires in the last 6 weeks or so that have been, I think, very exciting for local basketball. And I think the newness, I think there's going to be a lot of energy and a lot of excitement coming forward if we can get back on the court. As we know, this pandemic has put a dark cloud. It's a sunshiny day, but the pandemic has kind of put a dark cloud over the future of high school sports. But I know this guy really wants it back.
We're out here on a beautiful day at Deerf, Irving Park. You know, we're on these tennis courts, and actually Keith was just telling me, you know, he used to play tennis. He had a career before that. Tell the people about that.
Well, when I went to Deerf, we had studs. I would have loved to have played football. I would have loved to play basketball. I would probably have loved to play baseball. We were championship caliber in every sport. I mean, I graduated in '79. In the fall of '79, the Deerf football team was undefeated. In my senior year, our basketball team went to the District 11 championship game and lost to Allen. And Allen went all the way to the state finals that year. So we had studs. We had studs, and I was believe it or not, I was a scrawny 5'9.5" kid that didn't really have it physically to make the teams at that point. So my interest was in covering the teams and doing what I could to be involved. And so I played tennis here on these very courts. These were my home courts here at Darragh High School. And the coach of the tennis team was Tommy Young, who was a pretty good basketball player in his own right. And Tommy was the girls' basketball coach at that time. So I think either my sophomore or junior year, he said, "Hey, you love basketball, Keith. I know you always like to keep scorebooks and stuff." He said, "Why don't you come and do the stats for the Darragh girls team?" So I had the next best thing where I was associated with both the girls team, I was associated with the boys team. I was writing up, I was the editor of the student newspaper. And so my career was started. I was, writing stuff and keeping stats and all the things I've done basically for the last 40 years or so. I was doing
After all those events transpire, go down, you get to the morning call. It's a full-time job in 1982. Were you around then to cover the state championship Whitehall team, the last team to win?
No, I was still in college. I missed out on that. That was the year I was up. I spent a year up at main campus at Penn State. I was closely following it. As a matter of fact, I would come home on breaks, and came home on Christmas break, and they sent me out. Whitehall won a prestigious Christmas tournament at Reading, Geico Complex. So I come home. The boss at the time, Paul Reinhardt, said, "Hey, Whitehall's going for this championship," and I think they were playing Reading for the championship at Reading's home court. I think that's who they played. And so I did go out and I covered one game of that team winning their Christmas tournament out of Reading. And when I went back to Penn State, I'm thinking, that team that I just saw winning a championship, they're going to win more championships. And lo and behold, they won the biggest prize you can get, and that was the 3A championship at that point, which is the highest. Now, I did cover 84, Central Catholic, wins it. A guy named Ed McCaffrey, you might have heard of him.
Yeah.
Christian's father. He was the star. 86, Billy McCaffrey was pretty darn good too. Went to Duke and Vanderbilt. He was a freshman. Eddie was a senior. So I'm thinking, okay, 82 Whitehall. Whitehall wins it in 82. 84 Central Catholic wins it. 86 Central Catholic. We're gonna just win every other year, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's been since 1986, Julian, that we've had a state championship. We've come close. Your great team a couple years ago.
We were so close, Keith. Oh my gosh.
That great team a couple years ago. You had a big lead in that game, state, and that was at state semi at Reading.
Geico Complex.
Yeah, and I thought, man, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there again. It's hard. We've only had I think maybe 2 or 3 teams that have even gotten back to the state championship. In that time. It's hard enough to even win 2 games in the state tournament. So I thought, man, 82 Whitehall wins, 84, 86, man, we're going to be out here every year. Well, I've been waiting a long time to cover. I'm hoping we get someone else through and get a state champion before I pack it in. But the thing about it, Philadelphia Catholic League, Philadelphia Public League, a lot of charter schools have come on the horizon since then. It's really hard. It's really, I think it's no disrespect to the 82 Whitehall team or those Central Catholic teams. I think it's much harder now to win a state championship than it was in the early 80s.
For sure. I think that the Emotep team we played, they were number 7 in the country. They were top 10 in the country, and just to be a part of that was crazy. Just to know that we were this close to it, because they won the state championship game by about 50 points.
Right.
To think that if we got there, we could have won by at least 20 or 30.
Same with the Central Catholic team with Muhammad. And Gene Lee Baez, and that was a very talented team. Zay Jennings. Yeah. That was a very talented team, and that was the state championship. Now that was even around before your game. That was with Newman Goretti in the quarterfinal. Yeah. But we knew that this was it, and Central. Unfortunately, you have to have. I think the Philadelphia teams are so deep that they can afford 1 or 2 guys having an off night and they could still win. Yeah. When we don't have the depth, I don't think that some of those great Philadelphia teams have. Yeah. So all our guys must be at the top of their game. And if one guy's having an off night, we're in trouble. Or one guy gets into foul trouble, and we need everybody there playing max.
Journalism, it has got you many different opportunities. You were telling me earlier that you actually covered the Sixers for 10 years, which is, that's crazy to hear. but you know, the one that stood out to me was when he went to the Super Bowl in 2018. I think it was the 2017 season, but at this point it's 2018 when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. It's Will's favorite team right here. But yeah, tell us what, like, how does an Allentown reporter get to cover the Super Bowl? Like, what goes into that?
Well, we consider Philadelphia part of our readership. I mean, we've always covered the Eagles. We at one point in time we covered the Sixers, we covered the Phillies. I've been with them to 2 World Series, which was cool. But that was a great moment because I was like the second guy in, so it wasn't my primary beat, so I didn't have to do all the day-to-day stuff.
Yeah.
But I was the second guy in on the big game, so I went. If you remember, they crushed Minnesota in the NFC Championship game. People forget how close that Falcon game was in the first round of the playoffs, and
so
came down to a very close call. I mean, you know, they had executed, the whole dream would have been ended. But when I got the call to go to Minnesota, it was just unbelievable, and I got to go out. I hated, again, I'm a local guy first, and I love high school basketball, so I had to go out there on like a Monday already, even before the game. So I was like, wow, I'm going to miss a whole week of basketball. That bothered me, but hey, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm going to Minnesota, and I enjoyed it. It was great, and it all ended with that victory. It was a fantastic game, and even though I'm not a Philly fan, to be there on what is arguably one of the most special nights in Philadelphia sports history was I just get goosebumps thinking about it when they played that Eagles song, and the building was rocking. Even after the championship, I went on the field actually before I left the stadium that night. I went on the field and I had like a work bag, and I wish I had more, but I scooped up the confetti because there was just pounds and pounds of confetti all over the place. I scooped it up and I actually gave it to some Eagle fans who were friends of mine, and I said, this is authentic Super Bowl night confetti. But as soon as I could get back, they were telling me, take a couple more nights off. I'm like, no, I need to get back to high school basketball. So, I think Tuesday night, the Eagles win the Super Bowl on a Sunday night, obviously. Tuesday night I was back covering a high school basketball game because I didn't want to miss a beat, and I got right back on the horse again to do my beat with the high school basketball scene.
Yeah, but with all the glitz and glamours that come with journalism, there also comes with criticism. Anybody that, whenever you're doing something and you're successful at it, we could all tell you're very dedicated to high school basketball, like you just said. People feel left out. So, how have you handled like all the criticisms you received and all the angry people over the years?
Well, it's frustrating because they think that I favor certain teams, and it's not really the case. I always say this. I root for the clock first and foremost, and I say this because deadline is always in my mind, and this is for football or basketball. And I always say if I'm covering baseball or softball, I'm rooting for the pitcher. Deadlines are such an important issue for reporters, and we got to hit deadline. If you don't hit deadline, you're not going to have a career in the business, because it's what it's all about. Newspapers, maybe bloggers have more time and stuff like that, but so people misconstrue right away. I'm like, well, I'm rooting for one thing. I'm rooting for the clock. I root for a good story. You can't help yourself, Julian, but get attached to certain teams, certain people, and you're a human being. So you can try all you want to be totally, completely unbiased, but hey, I'd like to see this guy win. I like to see that guy win. When we get to states, it's pretty easy, and a lot of guys kind of stay objective. Then I want our teams to win. I told you in an earlier segment that I got to cover Central Catholic winning boys championships in '84 and '86, and I've been waiting a heck of a long time since then. And I don't care who it is. I want to see one of our local boys basketball teams, have that moment at the Giant Center. I've seen girls teams do it. It's great. I wasn't there for Becca the last time that they won it, but I was there for a bunch of Central Catholic championships. I've seen Parkland girls win a girls championship, but I'm waiting, since 1986, and it gets frustrating. I've gotten a little bit of a thicker skin about taking the criticism, but they just don't know you. They think, there's certain people who think I absolutely love the Catholic schools, for example.
Yeah.
There's certain people who think I absolutely hate the Catholic schools. Look, I like people at all schools, and we are such in a sense, it's good. People care, parents care, the fans care. So you want them to be invested, you want them to be emotionally invested, but sometimes it just leads to some crazy thoughts, and they don't know me, they don't know my background. That's why I'm glad to talk about my background a little bit during this interview. They're going to put labels on you. Oh, you're this, you're that. It's not the case. It's not. And I get it. I mean, everybody wants their team to be covered every game. They want their kid to be covered. Get a lot of headlines and a lot of pictures, and we do the best we can. We do the absolute best we can, and we try to be fair to everybody. And then you got to put your heart and soul into it and say, hey, darn well that when I do a story, X amount of people will like it, but there's going to be another X amount that's just not going to like it.
We're here at Keith Groller's old stomping grounds. As a young man, he used to walk to Irving Park, or actually run to Irving Park.
Run through the park to get the class on time.
Yeah, run through the park. It's his parents' old house. Rest in peace to Keith's father, Mr. Groller. But another tough question I got for you, Keith. Obviously we just talked about all the theory of greats over the years. But you've also been around for a lot of outstanding athletes in the Lehigh Valley. Pete Lisicki, Scott Quoval, Billy McCaffrey, Eddie McCaffrey, Muhammad Rockman, and people like that. Who are some of the best athletes you've seen in the Lehigh Valley during your time?
Oh, we're just talking basketball, guys that I've covered. It would be, I'd have to start with the two McCaffreys, Billy and Eddie. Eddie, of course, went on to a great career in the NFL, but probably could have been a Division I basketball player. Pete Lisicki was excellent. Don't forget, a guy that's kind of off the radar, who I think I'm trying to get a hold of for a piece in the paper, is a guy named Antoine Hubbard, who was fantastic.
Yes. Let me tell you something about that. Will could confirm the story. One day he came, when I was younger, he came over to our house, to my house, and because my dad was cool with him, and he just came over, telling us who he was, because he showed us all his film, because he's a really braggadocious person. So that was, over the years I've gotten to know him. He's very talented.
He electrified the Valley. I would have always liked to seen what he would have done against the bigger schools. He played at Salisbury, played in the Colonial League, and he put big numbers up every night in the Colonial League. I would have liked to have seen what he would have done against, the Central Catholics, the Beccas, the Allens, and so forth. But fantastic guy. Yeah. Now, in more recent vintage, we've had some great players. Darren Hilliard, Muhammad, you mentioned. Tyrese Martin, who really worked his way into becoming an outstanding player. We're doing what we can. We're producing some good talent. I thought Devontae Cross was. If you're talking athletes, just athlete, not basketball, not football, but you're talking about athlete. He might be the best athlete that I covered, because
he excelled in both sports.
You had. I think you're talking about an 8-for-8 guy. I think he was 4-for-4 in football and 4-for-4 in basketball districts. Who else has done that in two sports?
Yeah, you're right.
I don't think he gets enough credit for being the athlete he was, and because he played, he was part of that Parkland team with Iorio and company. Kenny Yaboa was, we've had but remember Devontae's still a football player down in Virginia and doing well. I don't think he gets enough credit I don't know the path to some great success, and I hope people look at you and say, man, Julian Thompson's going to a really good school. I mean, forget the basketball, and they're good in sports, the diplomats. But it's just a great education you're going to get. You're going to have all kind of opportunities. So I wish you well, and I wish everybody well. But I don't know if I answered your question, but it's about opportunity, and we've got to come together and maybe stop some of this bickering. You know, even on the local high school scene, it gets old.
This concludes another episode of MadBBall TV. It was an honor to have such a great conversation with, Mr. Keith Groller. But before we go, man, I just, I know personally you've shown me a lot of love over the years, and from just being on the front page of the newspaper, or you put me on your all area team. That was an honor. Because the EPC didn't want to put me in the All-Star team. So, I just want to thank you personally for everything you not only did for me, but also for the Valley. You make sure you come to every game and give it your all to every team. So I just want to thank you.
Well, I wanted to flip it right back on you, and I truly enjoyed covering you. I felt like you were part of a great era of Bethel Catholic basketball with some big stars like JP, Justin Paz, and the young brothers. But every team needs a scrapper. A guy that's going to scratch and claw and get you a rebound, get you a steal, distribute the ball. And Becca, I thought you were one of those guys. You were one of those glue guys that held everything together. I'm so proud that you're going to F&M. I love when we send kids on to the next level. And I don't care what that level is, where it is. I love to see kids continue playing the game of basketball and using basketball as a tool to get more education and more opportunities. And I think you're going to do well there. You were always cordial with me. You always gave me a thoughtful interview. Some guys, they're deer in the headlights, but you always gave me a thoughtful answer, and I appreciate what you've done for me with Bethel Catholic basketball over the last couple of years. And I'd certainly be rooting for you out there in F&M.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.